All right, welcome to Section 2, Recognizing Principles and Theories of Growth and Development. Okay, our objectives for this section is you'll be able to identify the key principles of growth and development, assess how milestones aid people who are working with children, give examples of the major principles of growth and development, and then explain how child development research can become theory. Okay, each person is unique, yet people are more alike than different. Okay, experts study these likenesses to find patterns in the way people generally grow and develop. These patterns are called principles of growth and development, and they don't fit every person exactly, but they are true enough that we use them as a guide when learning about children. Okay, so a big thing about growth and development is that it's constant. Many aspects of a person's growth and development are unchanging. We call this constancy. Traits that children possess today are a good hint that they are going to possess these traits in the future. For example, if you have a really tall 2-year-old who is tall amongst all their peers, it's likely that they're going to be a tall adult. Children who are good students in elementary school are likely going to be good students in high school. So how many of you are a good student in elementary school? Okay, happy, secure children tend to be cheerful, confident adults. Why? There are 2 reasons for constancy in growth and development. First, new growth, knowledge, and skills are always built upon those that are already required. You have to have a foundation to get more complex. One stage always prepares the way for the next, such as making sounds before you are able to make words. Second, people often live in the same environment for years. For major changes to take place in growth and development, you have to have major changes take place in your environment, and that just doesn't happen all the time. Okay, growth and development are also gradual and continuous. Growth and development are, for the most part, gradual and continuous. A child does not grow or develop overnight. It's a slow process. Consider a baby taking his or her first steps. Each day before walking, the baby grew, the baby matured, and the baby practiced their motor skills like crawling and pulling themselves up to stand. All these changes led to the baby's first step. In a positive way, the principle suggests that development does not reverse overnight either. A few mistakes usually do not cause severe problems. For example, having a one-day junk food binge does not seriously harm a healthy person. The principle is also positive in that setbacks in development can be overcome with intervention and effort. So if a child does regress a little bit, you can get them back on track if you actively try to. On the negative side, the principle can work to a person's disadvantage. It suggests that poor growth and development are not easily reversed. So consider a child that has poor health because they have a lifelong poor diet. It may take many months or even years of eating a healthy, carefully planned diet in order to restore the child's health. In some cases, their body may never be able to overcome those obstacles. Consider, too, a child who lags in intellectual development due to the lack of quality experiences with adults and with toys and books. Once extremely behind in learning, it's really difficult to overcome the learning gap between where the child is and where they should be. Okay? Growth and development also happens in sequence steps. For growth and development to be continuous, change has to build on what children have already learned. Writing comes from making random marks. The steps in growth and development follow one another in a set order that we call sequence steps. These steps are called stages or milestones. Researchers have arranged in an orderly way the milestones through many years of observations. The sequence should always lead to a greater complexity in behavior, such as going from scooting to skipping, thinking in a pre-logical thought to logical thoughts, and watching others play to interacting in team sports. Okay? How do milestones aid in those working with children? They give adults ideas about teachable moments. A teachable moment is an optimal time when a person can learn a new task. Teachable moments occur when the body and mind are physically ready, when caregivers encourage and support the child, and when the child feels a strong desire to learn. If a child has not reached a teachable moment, they will feel stressed when trying to master a task or skill. Waiting too long for the teachable moment to occur will cause many problems too. For example, a child who's ready to ride a bicycle and then is not given the chance to learn how. This child may then have trouble learning the skill as an adult. Another principle is that growth and development happen at different rates. Okay? All people change with time. Some people enter a stage earlier and some people enter a stage later. Researchers know the typical time when a developmental milestone occurs. This timing is called an age norm. Okay, and it can be expressed as an average age or an age range, like a range of months. When we are talking about When a child typically says their first word, we say 10 to 12 months. That's a range. That's the age norm for saying the first word. Okay, developmental acceleration occurs when a child performs like an older child. For example, a 30-month-old child who can speak in really long, complex sentences is developmentally accelerated in the area of language. Whereas a developmental delay occurs when a child performs like a younger child. For example, a 3-year-old who speaks in 2-word sentences may have a developmental delay in language. And I know that I had a direct example of this when I worked with twin boys who were 3 years old and would only speak in a couple words at a time, and even then they were barely understandable. Luckily, they've caught up now with intervention, but the mom had to get help for them. Okay? Why do these rates differ among people? The most common reasons are the effects of genes on your epigenome differ in a given person. Even identical twins vary in aspects of growth and development. Gender determines different growth rates. For example, girls' bones and organs are more mature than boys at all ages. Environmental influences have a major impact on growth and development. Children need a supportive environment to grow at the best rate. A supportive environment includes lots of love and care in many ways to learn. If the environment is lacking, lags, or delays in growth and then delays in growth and development will occur. On the other hand, an adult's attempts to hurry growth and development may cause the child some harmful stress. Lastly, motivation is a child's desire to achieve. It also makes growth and development rates vary. Some children are really eager to achieve, and others are more poorly motivated. Rates of growth and development also vary within the individual. Some of the rate changes are expected, like biological maturation, especially of the brain, will help determine periods of fast and slow growth and development in all people. Beyond these expected differences in rates, other differences are mainly determined by a person's genetic makeup and environmental experiences. For example, a child may develop at a fast rate in motor skills and a slower rate in language. A child may be developmentally accelerated or delayed in one or more of these areas. It is even possible for a child to be delayed in one area and accelerated in another area. A few children may be developmentally accelerated or delayed in almost all areas. Okay, lastly, growth and development are interrelated. Okay, physical, intellectual, social, emotional aspects of growth and development are often discussed in, at different times, but that's so you can better understand each aspect. In reality, they're all interrelated and they interact in complex ways. People who work with children have to understand how areas of growth and development affect one another. For instance, a teacher's job is to improve children's intellectual growth. If children come to school hungry or sleepy, however, they will not do well in learning activities. You all need to eat breakfast. Okay, come on. Studies have shown that unless children have positive feelings about themselves, which is part of the social-emotional development, they cannot devote the attention and energy needed for learning. Understanding these interrelationships will help improve the way that people work with children and help improve the way that you do. All right, now let's talk about something fun. Theories of growth and development. Okay, some researchers have studied children extensively and developed theories. A theory is a set of statements offered as a possible explanation for a phenomenon, such as child growth and development. Child development theories describe changes, okay, they may also be called stages, over time within one or more areas of development. They show changes among areas or the domains of development. And lastly, they explain why those changes occur. No one theory has been adequate to describe the complexity of child development. Still, theories help set goals and give direction to more research. Other research done by theorists or other researchers may confirm or disprove parts of a theory. Theories of child development can be divided into categories. Some deal mainly with biology, while others deal with the environment. Still, others deal with combinations of biology and environment and the extent to which each affects development. So nature, nurture, which one affects development the most. Several major child development theories categories are going to be described later. So why are there so many theories? Why cannot just one theory be validated by research? Theorists have a couple of problems is why, and I'm going to discuss that on the next slide. Okay, so the problems that theorists experience that lead to so many theories are that development is too broad and complex for one theorist to study all aspects of development. It's just too complicated. Also, research is never completely objective. Theorists begin with their own personal knowledge and interests and hunches, and their hunches determine what questions they ask and how they set up their research to begin with. Okay, new research has to begin with what is known based on theory. New research also relies on available research tools. Most of the child development theorists were doing their work before the times of computers or even calculators. Recording equipment was not available either, so all their notes were handwritten. Technology like brain scans and computers make a major difference in the ability to research child development. Even with the best of technology, though, research is a long and slow process. And lastly, theory development requires a knowledge network because answers come only when theories can be tested by other people. So you have to be able to share them with other people so that they can be tested. Some child developmental theorists did work together, but most did not have easy access to the theories of other child developmental theorists. So then they couldn't share them and test them, each other's theories. In this last slide, we are going to be talking about some of the most popular child developmental theories. Okay, there are different categories that child developmental theories fall underneath, and they each have a major psychologist who was kind of known as the head guy of that theory. Okay, so first is the maturational theory. This was developed by Arnold Gesell. Okay, he believed that physical and intellectual development was determined by heredity and biological maturation. His theory established many of our age norms and ideas about kids being ready for things and their readiness. Okay, Psychoanalytic theory was made by Sigmund Freud. Some of you have probably heard of him. He believed that your personality and mental health was determined by how children coped with their physical drives. He explained how children regulate their desires and take on social norms. His theory was used primarily by psychiatrists. He also had a lot of other weird stuff going on that he believed. All of it, like he had his psychosexual theory, a lot of it had to do with sex. It was very weird. Okay. Next one was psychosocial, which is Erik Erikson, and we will talk about his theory quite a bit. He was concerned about conflicts that occur between a child's needs and their social demands. He believed people who can cope with each conflict develop a healthy personality and vice versa. So if you can't cope with the conflict, then you develop an unhealthy personality. His theory is used in preventing and treating mental health problems. Okay, so very important. Next was the learning theory, where there was a couple of different theorists. We had both B.F. Skinner and Albert Bandura, where they focused mostly on how environments affect children's observable behaviors, not necessarily internal changes such as personality and how you learn. Okay, so observable behaviors like your personality and how you learn, they focused on how a kid's environment affected those. They study how behaviors can be reinforced or extinguished. So how you can make a child do the behavior more, make it stronger, or make them stop doing it. Learning theories are mainly used in behavior modification, obviously, or in intervention methods for children having learning or behavioral problems. So it's used a lot to get kids to start doing one behavior more and stop doing a different behavior, like biting each other. They'll try to get children to talk it out more rather than biting each other. A learning theory might be used for that. Okay, the cognitive developmental theory, which we will talk about a lot, is by Jean Piaget. He believed that children just think differently at different ages. He thought children built their knowledge through experiences that they had, and as they learned new ideas, their minds would adapt and change. His theory totally changed child development. It was a big deal. Okay, then we have the Socio-Cultural theory by Lev Vygotsky. He disagreed with Piaget's theory that children construct their own knowledge. He believed that a lot of the knowledge was personal construction, but a lot of it was also constructed socially because it was taught by people from your own culture. He had the idea of mentoring or tutoring that is used in a lot of schools today in order to do learning. So he had this idea about scaffolding, and we will talk about that later, and you'll learn more about that, but we use it a lot today. And lastly, the ecological systems theory was by Uri Bronfenbrenner. He noted that children's development is influenced by their heredity and their environment, as well as their indirect environment, like their parents' workplaces and like their overall general culture. He also believed that children affect their environment, such as how they treat friends may affect their friendships. His theory has made a lot more people aware of how many context or systems can affect a child and their development. All right, that's it for this section. We'll look forward to talking more about this with you in class.